privilege to have your company. This is the first solo podcast under the newly minted Apex Predator banner, and if you and I should cross paths for the first time, my name is Chris Nell. How do you do? A little housekeeping before we get into the nitty-gritty of it all, and I'll keep this succinct. It is true, having a cuppa, my previous show, has officially come to an end. It was a difficult decision to make. I loved doing the show, using my creative talent to help people give a voice in order to advance the message of sobriety. I said this to a friend of mine not too long ago, that I realized I began to saturate the market. I oversaturated myself, as a matter of fact. Reason why, a lot of the people that had gotten involved with me and the show had begun to do their own shows, their own Instagram lives. They have started Facebook pages. They have become incredibly vocal on almost every given social media platform. And I realized that I had seen a return on investment. That's the first part. The second part is I realized I also had a deeper calling, and that is a reawakening, as it were, of leadership amongst men. Now, the first bullheaded question that can jump up if you are to be watching me from a screen or you are listening to me on the other side of the ether is, what would you know, Mr. Nell, the man with the fancy accent? Granted, I give it to you. I'm young. But I can assure you my qualifications are extensive academically and experience-wise. From an experience front, I held my first job down when I was 13 years old, believe it or not. Over the school holidays where a majority of my contemporaries were frittering their time away, drinking and fornicating and doing whatever it is that millennials would have done in the years of yore, I was actually working my holidays. I held down an admin job part-time for a car rental company, and when the child labor laws had been amended round about the years of 2007, only at the age of 16, I was able to commit to a full-time job legally, working at a cell phone shop, doing repairs for cell phones. After I finished high school, I switched from cell phone repairs to cell phone contracts. I was in construction for a time. After I had finished high school, this was also in between the year that I had finished high school and ultimately going to college to earn my diploma. And even while I was earning my tertiary qualification, I was holding down part-time jobs, first for a hobby shop, then I worked in a pizzeria, and then afterwards I was in warehousing for a time, and then from warehousing I went into my dream job at the time, which was to be a radio broadcaster, and I've since done TV. I've also done live stage. So everything performance arts related I've done, but I've also done corporate and commercial retail. From an academia standpoint, I hold down a diploma in media practices or mass communications. I also have 2 grad diplomas in dramatic arts and multiple COCs in audio technology. And just this recent weekend, I've recently completed 2 COCs with Jocko Willink's Echelon Front and Extreme Ownership Academy in the extreme ownership framework and the barriers to extreme ownership. So where academia is concerned and where experience is concerned, I'm very, very well oiled, I can assure you. But not to boast. What I'm trying to do ultimately at the end of the day is I hope that what it is that I share with you, you can find valuable and you can apply to your life. If this doesn't work for you, you're more than welcome to tune out, go somewhere else where you feel comfortable. But truly my hope is that you'll find something worth of merit that you can apply to get you into a better framework of, you know what, I am worthy and I have to step up to the plate and take my mantle, earn my mane as the apex predator. A little premise that I want to start off with. When I was a younger man, I was told the story about the Auction Alliance of Southern Africa. They had a scandal on hand when it turned out some of their personnel disguised themselves as bidders, camouflaging themselves among the crowd at bids hosted by said body, and ultimately they would masquerade bidding and drive up the value of items on bid, overvaluing it, in so many words. In so doing, other bidders would ultimately win the bid but pay more for an item of lesser value. One bidder in particular on an appointed day saw a snake in the grass and promptly decided to take the Auction Alliance to court. Rael Levitt, who had just been appointed chairman at that point, or one of the head honchos of the Auction Alliance, had egg on his face upon doing further investigation into the plaintiff. It turns out, said person in question by the name of Wendy Applebell, her maiden name turned out to be Gordon, and that she was no less the daughter of one Donnie Gordon, founder of a brokerage firm called Liberty Life, one of the most premier financial service brands in the country, and one of the Auction Alliance's prime benefactors. So, that tells you always, never underestimate your opponent. And that leads me, with that segue, into the question, what makes you qualified? There are two methods by means of earning a qualification in life. There's the contemporary or the classical method, which is you earn your diploma through either a college, a technikon, as we speak of here in South Africa, or a polytechnical school. And then the other method is an abbreviation. If you hear it for the first time, please include it in your lexicon. It rings true as QBE, Qualified by Experience, which is accumulated through work-related study or through hands-on experience. A question associated: what is the purpose of a degree, and does it guarantee you the job? This is a big question mark that is floating around society today. The millennials of today, or rather the Generation X's, but it started with the millennials, was that the moment that you get that diploma or the degree, which is still dripping wet from the ink, you can march into a business and you could say, I want that job right now with that big salary bracket, and everything will be hunky-dory and be smooth sailing. That was what has been imprinted on their minds since, let's say, pre-millennium, starting from the 90s. But the reality is, it's not so. The purpose of a degree is to acquire skills in a chosen field. And the only guarantee that it provides you is a foot in the door. Better put, there's a brand new series that's now entering its second season, created by Taylor Sheridan of Yellowstone fame, called Tulsa King, starring Sylvester Stallone. Exactly what I have said, he just put it a lot more brazenly, in which he said, a degree shows a potential employer that you've taken the time to complete a set of tasks, earn a number of skills, and that they can take a chance on you that you will, quote unquote, not fuck up his business. That is ultimately the beginning and the end of the value of either a degree, a higher certificate, or anything alike. Another question that might arise: does a degree make you superior? This is a 50-50 equation. In skill set, yes. As humans, no. Another big misnomer I see in society today is a lot of people waltzing about whom have had the privilege of getting either a secondary or a tertiary academia, and they walk around with this air of, I am better than you because I hold a master's degree in physical sciences. Sure, in your mind maybe, but does that give you the right to look over your shoulder, or look down rather, on someone else? You and I have the same thing in common. We are born, and one day we are going to die. Everyone has the equal right to be treated as they would want to be treated. Finish and done. The importance of a degree, be it at undergraduate, postgraduate level, is to add value. Is to add value to a business. How to come by the difference is in your work ethic. Sure, you've got the skill set, but have you got the work ethic to back you up, to prove your statement concrete? Another element I have to shoehorn in here. Once you've gotten your degree, it helps strengthen your CV to help give you that foot in the door. I remember I had a conversation once, was actually during an interview with a gentleman who I had the privilege of working for, and he ultimately became a friend of a client of mine. A very good acquaintance by the name of Gary McDonough said to me, your curriculum vitae, or resume as it were, is your unique selling point. That shows a potential employer the pride you take in yourself and the amount of pride you show in conducting yourself to want to get the opportunity that is being offered by an employer. That gives them that extra peace of mind to take a chance on you, as it were, with the luck of the draw. Invest in yourself. But furthermore than that, your work ethic is only cultivated through consistent exposure to the working environment, learning how to navigate the challenges, your relationships, your social contracts that you have with the people in your immediate working area and with your clients. By no means are you superior above any other. When you are an authority in a chosen field, you have accumulated extensive knowledge to such a point other people are knocking on your door for your knowledge. And then, of course, you can extend yourself to becoming a consultant, upon which you can charge them a fee for. But that being said, the whole point of having tertiary education is to add value to yourself and to your potential employer. From then on, you are only going to have to prove the yardstick by consistently putting in the work. That's how you build bankability, and that's how ultimately you translate your efforts, your labor, into money. And ultimately, your relationships turn into references. That's all that a degree can provide you. It's a long, hard slog. And I'm not speaking negatively. I'm not sounding cynical. In fact, I avoid that with every fiber of my being. I want to go the extra distance, and I want to tell you about people with their nose in the air. I had the great misfortune to have worked with someone in order to supply them with content for broadcast television. This person in question, who shall remain nameless, had a very rich background in the arts, but sadly, as it had not been profitable for her, the person in question had to revert to teaching. I saw the depression play out on said person's face. But yes, it was a she. She had a very condescending attitude towards me because I tried to give creative input, but initially where she kept silent, now all of a sudden, now she started giving input, and she thought she, what is the expression I'm looking for? Because she was the client, she had the final say. Now, I don't have a problem incorporating people's ideas, but if your communication is very lackluster, then unfortunately I'm not going to give you the time of day. It's weak interaction. It is poor communication. And it shows you as a weak person, sorry to say. Ultimately, at the end of the day, because of the fact that she couldn't get her ideas imposed on me, she was extremely imposing. She couldn't get her ideas imposed on me. It led to a little bit of tense friction. And ultimately I was pulled off the project. And saving grace for me, because not long after, the company that I'd been working for at the time lost the contract because, again, everything that I said proved to be right, which was better communication skills. I took ownership at every corner. It was not a fact of that I was fanning the flames. It was poor communication on their part, and ultimately because they were just not satisfied with their ideas coming to life, and because my counterparts could not be more constrictive with, you have to give our producers the chance to bring your dream alive or your idea alive, the relationship was for naught. So avoid that with every fiber of your being, that air of superiority. It's going to get you nowhere. Always take ownership of your actions. If you take ownership of your actions, your communication style will be better, and there will be viable solutions on the horizon which can come from a democratic exchange. Now, I've spoken on the benefits as well as the disadvantages, the supposed disadvantages, the cons of having a tertiary qualification. Well, here is another area. What if I don't have a degree? Can I still be a success in this life? Can I still be a leader? And the answer is, of course you can. Do you remember where I spoke of QBE, qualified by experience, through means of work-related study and hands-on experience? Same principle applies. Best answer I can give you, Larry King. Larry King, Jewish kid from Bensonhurst, Brooklyn, sadly lost his father at a very young age, didn't finish school, as it were, because of lack of funds. His entire family had been on welfare for a while, and as a result he had to go do labor at a very young age in order to keep food on the table. Yet his heart's desire was to be on radio. Couple of years afterward, he migrated to Miami, lived with an uncle, did miscellaneous tasks at a small radio station which at the time was starting to become a center, a breeding ground for new broadcasters, and after a short period in that, one of their resident announcers had quit. The general manager put him on the air for his first show, and even after a hiccup, he continued racking up experience as a broadcaster in order to become a fluent talker, and the mantle, the identity of Larry King, as it were, was born. In fact, I'll take it a step further. On the appointed day of his first broadcast, the general manager, Marshall Sims, I believe his name was, I stand to be corrected, said to him, "What name are you going to use? You can't use your last given name, which was Zyga, on the air. It's too ethnic." And the Miami Herald was open, and in it was an advert for King's Wholesale Liquors. I'm sure that brand name must have died down and is now known as under another identity, but there it is. And it was suggested, why not use Larry King? And when he went on the air with Mike Fright, dare I say, as was the case with me when I started in the radio business, he ultimately, after Marshall Sims said to him, "This is a communications business," said, "Good morning. My name is Larry King. It's the first time that I've used this name. I've always wanted to go into this business, and this is my first time on the air, and also the first time that I'm using the name Larry King." And the rest, as they say, is history. All that came from work-related experience and work-related study, rather, and hands-on experience. Another finite example is Steve Harvey. Steve Harvey dropped out of tertiary studies in order to take a myriad of jobs in order to pursue stand-up comedy. Yet even he lamented at one point that he would have loved to obtain a tertiary degree. But hear me, we never know the paths that have been carved out for us. Ultimately, at the end of the day, you have to go where you are being led and follow your heart and sometimes not your head. Working a job, like I mentioned Larry King before, just doing miscellaneous tasks, it helps expose you to the working environment, as I've also mentioned earlier in this conversation. It gives you an oversight of people's attitudes, their bearing, as it were, and the various work ethic of upper management. And the whole point is to absorb and incorporate into your toolbox. And should there come a time where you can financially pursue tertiary education, maybe you have found something that works for you, something that you have a vested interest in, a talent that you feel is marketable, but yet you want the concrete knowledge in order to make yourself more saleable, more bankable, more marketable. Do it. Doesn't matter if you're 30, 40, 50. My mother, to tell you the God's honest truth, only pursued further education when she was already in middle age. So there's no such thing as too late. Yes, I know, overheads, family and kids, and everything else can be a hurdle in the way, finance-wise. But sometimes you're going to have to take a jump off the cliff without a parachute. I'm not saying you should be irresponsible. I tell you, when I earned my first paycheck, I learned frugal very quickly. But your heart will tell you when the time is right to take a chance. Because one thing that is ultimately the given in this life, especially circa post-2020, is that one stream of income is not going to be enough. Multiple streams of income is going to give you financial freedom. Also, if you take a job without a qualification, you're not going to get paid much. So, again, being frugal is going to be key, but also you're going to be taught humility. Your kid attitude and your kid street smarts and your street gabbing abilities is not going to help you. So you are going to be humbled very quickly. Other people are going to seem so big, you're going to become smaller and smaller and smaller and smaller and smaller. And it's difficult. Hear me, it's difficult, but it's necessary. Necessary to the nth degree. And I did cover the point of you're going to become frugal in the beginning. But it's also a good thing should you also take the mind switch to see it that way. Now, let me offer a remedy, still remaining under the helm of when I don't have a degree. How can I educate myself? And I give you an answer. It's so simple you're going to kick yourself. Read. Not just what's in a newspaper, not just what's on social media. Read a book. And don't limit yourself to the variety of genres out there. I cannot stress this enough. Have a wide scope. There's no such thing that is lesser admired or even more admired than a person who is well-read, an all-rounder. It certainly was a prerequisite for me when I was a radio broadcaster in my day, and it stood me in good stead, especially now where I am a businessman. You cannot go wrong by reading a book. And if you feel you don't have time, make time. Make time, finish, and done. In so doing as well, you absorb through literature a sense of awe of life, a fabric of thinking, a way of thinking and doing which is accustomed to you, which you will find beneficial in both your professional life and in your personal life. In that way, you can be qualified. A beautiful quote that I would like to shoehorn in as well. I tend to do this, forgive me. But Michael Ironside, the famed character actor from films such as Free Willy, Jester from Top Gun, and then of course most famously of all, Richter from Total Recall, said in an interview once his mother told a reporter by saying, "We cannot afford to send our children anywhere, but we can send them everywhere in books." Reading exercises your imagination. It promotes free thinking. It improves your vocabulary, and plus also it extends your general knowledge. And it's the most enriching hobby you can find. For me personally, I prefer either a hardcover or a softcover paperback. I do the ebook thing now and again, but my preference still remains old-fashioned. So a hardcover or a softcover book on which I can attach man, I'm barely at a loss for words, which I can mark, and just the feeling of it. I can feel that person talking to me whenever I have a hardcover or a softcover. With an electronic cover, my eyes dart, and with my astigmatism, it proves a little bit of a problem, but that's not up for discussion. And plus also, through literature, you develop new skills continually. Now I have to say something here. Don't just read fiction. Immerse yourself in the classics. Pick up a couple of books of poetry. Pick up books that are promoting the concept of self-help. There are tons out there. In fact, a joke in my home is I often overshoot my budget by $2,000, $3,000 whenever it is that I go do shopping and I pass by a bookstore. And the hell be damned every time that it happens, there's always a clearance sale. So $2,000, $3,000 later, I'm walking out with a couple of bags and a great big headache. When I'm walking in, I'm smiling, but when I walk out, I'm sweating. But thankfully, I can work that expense back, as it were. You pick up skills from self-help books which you can use to help you, which you can integrate into your lifestyle, into your work style, into your communication style, in your social contracts, in your professional contracts. It's an investment with a return on investment assuredly from short-term, mid-term, long-term. And also another example, reading and any other pastime that enriches you keeps your mood lifted. The best example, John Lithgow, Third Rock from the Sun, and quite recently The Old Man, the miniseries with Jeff Bridges, made this wonderful, wonderful analogy. If you have something that provides you with a goal and an aim, you will absolutely coast through difficult times. More expressly, you give yourself something, a goal and an aim which helps pass by the quiet moments. You avoid contempt, you avoid resentment, and you avoid bitterness. But when you land that tender, when you land that contract that you are yearning for, your creative juices are in overdrive. So in so doing, you can ultimately execute that tender with the utmost efficiency and absolutely just reap the benefits from that. And it's a win-win situation, a complete win-win situation. So we've covered the concrete bits, the methods of being qualified from a contemporary standpoint and through QBE. We've also spoken about on how to self-educate yourself. Another means that I'll just add in on an improvisational note, listen to podcasts. We live in the galaxy of the podcast. There are so many business experts, tried and trusted business experts, who you can consistently consult, make notes, reflect on them consistently, see what you can put into practice on a daily basis. In fact, I'll even add a little bit of scientific knowledge to this, which I had accumulated when I was doing sound engineering. The human mind can only concentrate up until a duration of 38 minutes concretely, upon which you immediately lose concentration, as it were. But in that 38 minutes, we take in information a lot more concretely, audibly, than what we do visually. It's just how human psychology works. So invest in podcasts, and the best part of it all is it's free. It's free. Don't deny yourself. Instead of sitting on your phone all day, instead of sitting on social media all day, instead of wasting your time on alcohol and whatnot, invest in yourself. The return on investment will be your business will be stronger, your CV will become stronger, your references, will become stronger. You'll be able to convey yourself with better authority to a potential employer. You'll be able to sell yourself, if you are a small business, a lot more effective to your clientele. You'll be able to build a bigger reference base, if I had not covered that already. And you'll be looked at with reverence as an authority figure in your chosen field. And rest assured, this is not going to happen overnight. Remember, Rome wasn't built in a day. It was built brick by brick. How do you eat the elephant? Bite by bite. But it starts with one choice. It starts with one choice. And that will make you qualified. I'd like to end off with this reference that I'd learned quite recently from Randolph Elder, who served in his earlier years as Staff Sergeant and World War II veteran under the Montford Point Marines. They was influential as the Tuskegee Airmen of yore in the United States Marine Corps, and posthumously he was the recipient of what would be the Congressional Gold Medal. He said that hard work always wins. By God, you can't control the outcome, but assured, you can control 100% of the effort. Did you take that in? I surely hope that you did, because blast, those are wise, wise words. Hard work always wins. You cannot control the outcome, but you're 100% in control of the effort. Before you complain of what's been done to you, look in the mirror first and see what could you have done to have controlled the outcome. You're qualified. You're qualified, and we as men are duly responsible for our actions. There we are. My name has been Chris Nell. It's been a privilege, and I'd like to end off with a popular saying that I would like to make popular. You're an unbreakable mind. You're an unstoppable force. You're an untamed spirit. You are an army of one, an apex predator. God bless everyone. Keep well. See you next time.